The throne room was silent. Princess Valeth Sornkai knelt on the cold marble floor, with silver chains around her wrists. She had not committed any crime. She had not betrayed anyone. But the way her father looked at her made her feel like the worst criminal in the entire Zerani empire. Around her stood hundreds of nobles. They wore beautiful robes made of silk that changed colors in the light. Their skin was pale blue, like all Zerani people, and their eyes glowed in soft shades of purple and silver. Valeth had grown up with these people. She had danced with them at celebrations. She had called them friends. Now they looked at her like she was dirt on their shoes. High Physician Moran stepped forward. He was an old man with a long white beard and eyes that showed no kindness. He held a glowing tablet in his hands. The results of her examination, the reason she was here, the tests are complete, Moran announced. His voice echoed through the massive hall. Princess Veleth's reproductive matrix is defective. She is genetically barren. She cannot produce offspring with any Zerani male. This condition is permanent and cannot be treated. The whispers started immediately. They spread through the crowd like fire through dry grass. Valeth kept her head down, but she could hear every word. Broken, useless, worthless, shame. Among the Zerani, nothing mattered more than bloodlines. Their entire society was built on the idea that strong genetics created strong people. A woman who could not have children was considered a failure. A princess who could not have children was considered a disaster. Valeth looked up at her father. Emperor Kelthos sat on his golden throne, wearing robes of deep purple that marked him as ruler of 1,000 worlds. His face was hard as stone. He did not look sad. He did not look angry. He looked disappointed, and somehow that was worse than anything else. Father Valeth said softly, "Please, I did not choose this." I did not. Silence. His voice was not loud, but it cut through her words like a knife. You have brought shame upon the royal bloodline. Your mother's genes were clearly weaker than we believed. This defect ends with you. Valeth felt tears burn in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Her mother had died when she was young. To hear her blamed for this was almost too much to bear. Her younger sister Thyra stood near the throne. She was everything Valeth was not. Beautiful in a sharp, dangerous way. Fertile as her 3 children proved. Ambitious in ways that made everyone around her nervous. Thyra smiled behind a delicate fan, and that smile told Valeth everything. Her sister was enjoying this moment. What is to be done with her? Asked Lord Commander Varys. He was tall and handsome, with silver hair and cold purple eyes. 6 months ago, he had asked Valeth to marry him. She had said yes with joy in her heart. Now he looked at her like she was a stranger. No, worse than a stranger. Like she was an embarrassment he wanted to forget. The humans have sent a request, Emperor Kelthos said. They wish to establish stronger diplomatic ties with our empire. They have asked for a bride of noble blood. Laughter rippled through the court. The humans. Everyone knew about the humans. They were newcomers to the galactic community, having only discovered faster-than-light travel about 50 years ago. They were considered primitive, emotional, and far too soft for the harsh realities of space. Their home planet was a small blue world called Earth. And their empire consisted of only a dozen colony worlds. Sending a Zerani princess to marry a human was not an honor. It was an insult dressed up in pretty words. You will go to Earth, the Emperor told Valeth. You will serve as a diplomatic bride. You will represent the Empire, even though you can never continue it. Veleth's 2 hearts pounded in her chest. Earth. She would be sent to live among aliens, who were considered barely civilized. She would never see her home again. She would never walk through the crystal gardens or swim in the purple seas of her birth world. Father, please, she tried again. Send me anywhere else. Let me serve the Empire in another way. I can be a scientist, a diplomat. You will go to Earth. Duh. His voice was final. The transport leaves tonight. You are dismissed from this court and stripped of your position in the succession. From this moment forward, you are no longer my heir. You are simply a gift to the humans. Nothing more. Guards stepped forward and pulled Valeth to her feet. She was led out of the throne room while hundreds of nobles watched. Some looked amused. Some looked relieved. Very few looked sad. As she passed, her sister Thyra leaned close and whispered, "Try not to die among the primitives, sister. Though I suppose it would not matter much if you did." Valeth did not respond. She held her head high and walked with dignity. Even though everything inside her was breaking, the transport ship was small and uncomfortable. It was not designed for royalty. It was designed for cargo. Valeth sat in a tiny cabin with gray metal walls and a single small window. Through that window, she watched her homeworld grow smaller and smaller until it was just a dot of light. Among millions of stars, she had been given no time to pack properly, no time to say goodbye to anyone who might have cared, no time to visit her mother's grave one last time. She had nothing except the simple dress on her back and a small bag of basic belongings. The journey to Earth would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks alone with nothing but her thoughts and her pain. Valeth made herself a promise in that tiny cabin. She would not cry. She would not break. She would not give her father, or her sister, or Lord Varys the satisfaction of knowing they had destroyed her. Whatever waited for her on Earth, she would face it with strength. She did not know that Earth would change everything. She did not know that the primitive humans had secrets the galaxy had never imagined. She did not know that her broken genetics were not broken at all, just waiting for the right match. She only knew that she had lost everything. And somehow, she had to find the strength to keep going. The stars streaked past her window as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. Behind her was everything she had known. Ahead of her was a small blue planet and a future she could not imagine. Valeth closed her eyes and let the hum of the engines fill the silence. Tomorrow, she would be strong. Tonight, alone in the dark, she allowed herself to grieve for the life that had been stolen from her. The shuttle landed on Earth on a bright spring morning. Valeth looked through the window and saw green everywhere. Green grass, green trees, green hills, rolling toward the horizon. After growing up on a world of purple oceans and crystal towers, Earth looked almost painfully simple. But there was something warm about it too. Something alive. She stepped off the shuttle and felt real sunlight on her blue skin for the first time. It was softer than the light of her home's sun. Gentler somehow. She closed her eyes for a moment and let it wash over her. "Welcome to Earth, Your Highness." Valeth opened her eyes. A human man stood before her. He was tall, with black hair and kind brown eyes. He wore a military uniform that was clean and simple, with none of the decorations Zerani officers loved. He smiled at her, and there was no mockery in it. No judgment. Just warmth. "I am Captain James Chen," he said. "I have been assigned to help you adjust to your new home." Valeth did not know what to say. She had expected coldness. She had expected to be treated like the burden she was. This simple kindness caught her off guard. "Thank you," she managed. "I am Princess Valeth. But I suppose you already know that." "I do," James said. "But I also know that titles do not define a person. Would you like me to show you where you will be living? I think you might find it more comfortable than you expect." The first few months were strange and difficult. Valeth had been taught her entire life that humans were primitive. She expected them to be stupid, violent, and crude. Instead, she found something completely different. Humans asked her questions. Not demanding questions, but curious ones. They wanted to know about her culture, her food preferences, her comfort. When she did not eat for 2 days because she was too sad, a human woman named Dr. Sarah Okonkwo came to check on her. "You need to eat," Sarah said gently. "I know this is hard. I know you did not choose this. But starving yourself will not help anything. Why do you care?" Valeth asked. She did not mean it to sound harsh, but she truly did not understand. "I am just a diplomatic gift. A discarded princess sent to you as an insult." Sarah sat down beside her. "We don't see you that way. You are a person who has been hurt badly by people who should have loved you. That matters to us." Valeth started crying then. She had promised herself she would not cry, but she could not stop it. Sarah held her hand and did not say anything. She just stayed with her until the tears stopped. Slowly, things began to change. Valeth learned that humans were not primitive at all. They were simply different. They valued things that Zerani people did not care about. Kindness, compassion, the idea that every person had worth regardless of their usefulness. James visited her often. He taught her about human history and culture. He learned her language so they could speak in her native tongue when she felt homesick. He never once made her feel like a burden or a failure. "Why did you volunteer for this assignment?" she asked him one evening. They were walking through a garden filled with flowers she did not recognize. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Because I believed you deserved better than what you were given," James said simply. "And I wanted to show you that humans are not what your people think we are." 6 months after her arrival, Valeth went for a medical examination. It was routine, nothing special. But when Dr. Sarah Okonkwo looked at the results, she went very still. "What is wrong?" Valeth asked, her heart's beginning to race. "Is there something else broken inside me?" Sarah looked at her with wide eyes. "Valeth, you are not barren. That is impossible. The finest physicians in the Zerani Empire examined me. My reproductive matrix cannot produce offspring. It is documented." It cannot produce offspring with Zerani males," Sarah interrupted gently. "Your biology is not defective. It is different. You are genetically incompatible with your own species. But you are almost perfectly compatible with humans." Valeth felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "What?" "Your DNA has unique markers that do not match Zerani genetics. But those same markers align almost perfectly with human DNA. It is like you were designed to be compatible with us, not with your own people." "But no one ever tested for this," Valeth whispered. "Why would they? The Zerani consider humans primitive. They would never think to check if their princess could have children with us. They threw you away without ever understanding what you really are." Valeth sat down heavily. Her entire life, she had been told she was broken, defective, worthless. And all along, she had simply been different. Different in a way that her people could not see because they refused to look. Over the following months, Valeth's relationship with James deepened. What started as diplomatic duty became friendship. Friendship became something more. He never pushed her. He never demanded anything. He simply loved her, patiently and completely. "I want to marry you," she told him one night. "Not because of politics or diplomacy, because I love you." James took her hands in his. "I have loved you since the moment I saw you step off that shuttle, looking like a wounded warrior trying to pretend she was not hurt. I would be honored to be your husband." Their wedding was small and beautiful. Humans and the few aliens who had come to Earth as friends gathered to celebrate. Valeth wore a dress that mixed human white with Zerani purple. James wore his formal uniform. They exchanged vows under a sky full of stars. 1 year later, their daughter was born. She had her mother's blue skin and violet eyes, and her father's dark hair and stubborn chin. She was perfect. She was healthy. She was everything Valeth had been told she could never have. Valeth held her daughter and cried for 3 days. Not from sadness. From joy so powerful, it felt like it might break her apart. "What will we name her?" James asked, sitting beside her on the bed. Lily, Valeth said. She had learned that lilies were flowers that represented new beginnings. "She is our new beginning, the proof that I was never broken, just waiting to find where I belonged." James kissed her forehead. "Welcome home, Valeth. Welcome home." The first time in her life, Valeth truly believed she was home. Not because of the planet or the politics, because she had found people who loved her exactly as she was. 7 years passed like water flowing through open fingers. Valeth built a life she never thought possible. She had a husband who loved her, a daughter who amazed her every day, and a planet that had become her true home. Lily was growing up fast. She was 7 years old now, with blue skin like her mother and dark curly hair like her father. Her eyes were the brightest violet Valeth had ever seen. She was curious about everything, always asking questions, always wanting to learn more. Mama, why do your people have two hearts? Lily asked one morning while Valeth braided her hair in the traditional Zerani style. Because we evolved on a world with lower gravity and thinner air, Valeth explained. Two hearts helped our ancestors survive. Do I have two hearts? Valeth smiled. You have 1.5. The doctors say it is perfectly healthy. You are special, my little flower. A mix of two worlds. Lily thought about this seriously. I think that makes me lucky. I get the best parts of both. Valeth kissed the top of her daughter's head. Yes, you do. That afternoon, Valeth was working in the garden when the communication device in their home began to flash with an emergency signal. She hurried inside and saw that it was broadcasting on an Imperial Zerani frequency, a frequency that should not have been able to reach Earth at all. She activated the screen, and her blood turned to ice. Thyra's face filled the display. Her sister had aged in 7 years. There were lines around her eyes and a hardness to her expression that had not been there before, but her smile was exactly the same, sharp and cruel and full of hidden knives. Valeth, Thyra said, You look well. Country life agrees with you. What do you want, Thyra? Straight to business. How very human of you. Thyra's smile widened. Father is dying. His hearts are failing, and the physicians say he has perhaps a month left. The succession is being contested. Many noble families believe they should have a chance at the throne. Lilith felt nothing at this news. The man who had thrown her away like garbage was dying, and she could not find any sadness for him. Why are you telling me this? I was removed from the succession, so the situation has changed, dear sister. Our scientists have been studying hybrid genetics. They discovered something very interesting about your DNA. The same thing your human doctors discovered years ago. I imagine. Thyra leaned forward. You are not Barren. You never were. And now, we need what you have. Explain. The Zerani bloodlines are weakening. Too much inbreeding over too many generations. We need new genetic material to strengthen our species. Your unique markers, the ones that make you compatible with humans, could be the key to saving our people. Thyra's eyes glittered. We want you to return home. Submit to genetic extraction. Let our scientists create a template from your DNA that can be used to improve Zerani fertility. You want to dissect me? You want to honor you? You would be saving our entire species. Surely that matters to you. Eveleth stared at her sister. And if I refuse? Then we will come and take what we need. The humans cannot stop us. Their fleet is small and primitive. We will harvest your genetic material whether you cooperate or not. Oh, and we will take the child as well. A living hybrid is even more valuable than DNA samples. Perhaps we will be kind and let you keep her. Perhaps not. The screen went dark. Valeth stood frozen. Her hands were shaking. Her hearts pounded so hard she could feel them in her throat. Thyra had threatened her daughter. Her perfect, innocent daughter who had never done anything wrong. James found her standing there 10 minutes later. He had been at the naval base and had rushed home as soon as he heard about the transmission. Valeth took her hands. They were cold as ice. I heard. I know what she said. They are coming for Lily. Valeth's voice was barely a whisper. They want to take my baby. They will not touch her. James's voice was calm, but his eyes had gone hard. Valeth had never seen him look like this before. He looked like a different person. They will not touch either of you. James, you do not understand. The Zerani fleet is enormous. Hundreds of warships. The most advanced technology in the known galaxy. Earth cannot fight them. James was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, Do you trust me? With everything I have? Then come with me. There is something I need to show you. He took her to a military base she had never seen before. They traveled underground in an elevator that dropped for what felt like miles. When the doors opened, Valeth stepped out and stopped breathing. Before her was a cavern larger than any building she had ever seen. In filling that cavern were ships. Hundreds of ships. They were sleek and powerful, covered in weapons she did not recognize. They made Zerani dreadnoughts look like children's toys. What is this? She whispered. An older woman approached them. She had James's eyes and his stubborn chin. Admiral Chen, his mother. "This is humanity's real fleet," the admiral said. "We have been building it for 50 years. Hiding it from the galaxy, waiting. Waiting for what? For the day someone decided that humanity was worth conquering. Or worth taking from." The admiral looked at Valeth with kind eyes. "Your sister made a mistake. She thought humans were weak because we choose to be kind. She thought our softness meant we could not fight." Valeth looked at the massive warship surrounding her. "How? How did you hide this?" "We let the galaxy believe what it wanted to believe," James explained. "We acted simple and primitive because it gave us time. Time to learn, time to build, time to prepare." "The Zerani think they are coming to discipline a weak species," Admiral Chen said. "They have no idea what they are walking into. And by the time they realize their mistake, it will be too late." Valeth felt something strange blooming in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. Real, burning hope. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. James took her hand. "We need you to stand with us. Not as a discarded princess. Not as a diplomatic bride. As one of us. As family." Valeth looked at her husband. She looked at his mother. She looked at the fleet that humanity had been hiding from the galaxy for half a century. Then she smiled. And it was not a soft smile. It was a smile that promised storms and fire and justice. "Let them come," she said. "Let them see what happens when you threaten a human family." The Zerani Imperial Fleet arrived 3 weeks later. 12 massive dreadnoughts dropped out of faster-than-light travel and assembled in orbit around Earth. Each ship was 5 kilometers long, covered in weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Behind them came support vessels, troop carriers, and medical ships equipped for genetic harvesting. Admiral Thyra Sornkai stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Divine Vengeance, and looked at the small blue planet below. Earth seemed so fragile from up here, so easy to break. "Open a channel to the planet," she commanded. "All frequencies. I want every human to hear this." Her broadcast reached every city, every village, every ship in the Earth system. "People of Earth," Thyra announced. "I am Admiral Thyra Sornkai of the Zerani Empire. You have harbored an Imperial asset. The one you call Valeth and the hybrid child she produced are property of the Empire. You will surrender them immediately." She paused, letting her words sink in. "If you cooperate, we will allow your civilization to continue. We may even offer trade agreements. If you resist..." She gestured, and the weapons on her fleet began to glow with charging energy. "We will demonstrate what happens to species that defy us. You have 1 hour to respond." The transmission ended. Thyra smiled and waited for the humans to beg. Instead, a new signal appeared. A different face filled every screen in the fleet village. She wore a human naval uniform, black and silver, simple and elegant. Her blue skin seemed to glow against the dark fabric. Behind her stood humans in military formation. Beside her stood James, wearing armor that marked him as a combat officer, Sister Valeth said. Her voice was calm and steady. There was no fear in it. "You called my daughter an asset. You called her a half-breed. You came to my home and threatened to harvest my body and steal my child." Thyra's smile flickered. Something was wrong. Valeth should be terrified. Instead, she looked almost peaceful. "I am going to teach you something," Valeth continued. "Something that humans taught me. Love is not weakness. Family is not defined by blood. And the soft species you mocked has been sharpening its claws in the dark for a very, very long time."
Oh, no.
The view screen showed Earth's orbit, and then from behind the planet's curve, ships began to appear. Human ships, they rose from hidden bases on the moon. They emerged from hollowed-out asteroids. They materialized from behind electromagnetic screens that had hidden them perfectly. Hundreds of ships, then thousands. They were not large like Zerani dreadnoughts. They were smaller, faster, more nimble, but their weapons glowed with energy signatures that made no sense. Technology that should not exist. Power that seemed impossible. Thyra's navigation officer spoke, his voice trembling. "Admiral, I am reading over 3,000 combat vessels. Their weapons are... I do not understand these readings. The power output is beyond anything in our databases. That is impossible, Thyra said. But she could see it with her own eyes. The humans had been hiding. Not just hiding a few ships. Hiding an entire fleet capable of challenging the Zerani Empire. This is your one chance, Valeth said through the communication channel. Leave now. Go home. Tell my father that his discarded daughter sends her regards. If you stay and fight, you will lose. Thyra's pride would not let her retreat. She had brought 12 dreadnoughts to discipline primitives. She could not return home defeated by monkeys who had only learned to fly a few decades ago. All ships, she commanded. Open fire. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Zerani dreadnoughts fired their main cannons, weapons that could melt through mountains. Human ships scattered like startled birds, moving in patterns that Zerani targeting computers could not predict. They were too fast. Too agile. They seemed to know where the Zerani would fire before the weapons discharged. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons did not look impressive. Small pulses of blue light that seemed almost delicate. But when those pulses hit Zerani shields, they tore through like paper. 1 ship, 2 ships, 5 ships. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield. How is this happening? Thyra shouted. Their technology was supposed to be primitive. No one had an answer. Human pilots flew like nothing Zerani tacticians had ever seen. They took risks that should have been suicidal, threading their ships through gaps that seemed impossible. But they were not reckless. They were precise. Every move had purpose. Every attack hit exactly where it would do the most damage. Valeth watched from the bridge of the HSS Defiance. She was no longer the princess who had knelt in chains on cold marble. She was a mother protecting her child. A wife fighting beside her husband. A woman who had found her true people. Focus fire on the flagship, Admiral Chen commanded. Disable their engines and weapons. I want the Admiral alive. Human ships swarmed the Divine Vengeance. Its shields fell in seconds. Its weapons went dark. Its engines sputtered and died. Thyra stood on her ruined bridge, surrounded by sparking consoles and injured crew. 8 of her 12 dreadnoughts were destroyed. The rest were disabled or fleeing. The battle had lasted 11 minutes, and the Zerani Empire had lost. The airlock of the Divine Vengeance blew open. Human marines poured through, their armor sleek and their weapons raised. And at the front of them walked Valeth. The sisters faced each other in the wreckage. How? Thyra whispered. She was no longer arrogant. She was broken. Her fleet was gone. Her power was gone. Everything she had believed about humans was a lie. You never understood us, Valeth said quietly. You saw kindness and thought it meant weakness. You saw compassion and thought it meant stupidity. But humans are kind because they choose to be, not because they have to be. She stepped closer to her sister. They showed me what real strength looks like. It looks like James holding me when I cry. It looks like doctors staying up all night with sick patients. It looks like a species that hides its weapons for 50 years because it wants peace, but builds those weapons anyway because it knows peace requires strength. Thyra had no response. Take her to detention, Valeth told the Marines, and open a channel to the Zerani homeworld. I have a message for the Succession Council. As her sister was led away in restraints, Valeth looked at the stars through the shattered viewport. Somewhere out there was the planet that had thrown her away, the father who had called her worthless, the court that had laughed at her shame. They were about to learn that discarded does not mean destroyed, and that humans had taught her something more valuable than any Zerani inheritance. They had taught her that she was worth fighting for, the imperial palace of the Zerani. Empire had not changed in 7 years. The same cold marble floors stretched toward distant walls. The same towering pillars held up a ceiling painted with scenes of ancient conquests. The same nobles filled the throne room, wearing the same silk robes that changed colors in the light. But today, everything felt different. Emperor Kelthos sat on his golden throne, but he was not the powerful ruler he had once been. His skin had gone pale and gray. His eyes had lost their sharpness. His two hearts were failing, and everyone knew he had only days left. The physicians could do nothing more for him. The massive doors at the end of the throne room swung open. Silence fell over the assembled nobles. Like a heavy blanket, Valeth walked through those doors. She did not walk in chains this time. She wore the full-dress uniform of a human fleet admiral, black and silver with medals gleaming on her chest. Her blue skin seemed brighter than anyone remembered. Her violet eyes were calm and steady. She walked like someone who knew exactly who she was and exactly what she was worth. At her right side walked James. He wore a ceremonial armor that marked him as her consort champion, a position of honor in both human and Zerani tradition. His expression was serious, but there was warmth in his eyes when he looked at his wife. At her left side walked Lily, 7 years old, with her mother's skin and her father's hair. She looked around the throne room with curiosity, not fear. She had never seen this place before, but she did not seem impressed by its grandeur. She held her mother's hand and walked with perfect confidence. Behind them came the human delegation, ambassadors in formal dress, scientists with tablets ready, military officers standing at attention, and behind them all, in containment fields that hummed with energy, came the captured commanders of the invasion fleet, including Thyra. The former admiral had been treated well. She was not injured or starved, but the containment field kept her walking with the other prisoners, a visible reminder of what happened when someone threatened the wrong family. The nobles whispered among themselves. They had heard about the battle, of course. News of 12 dreadnoughts being destroyed in 11 minutes had spread across the galaxy within hours. But hearing about it and seeing the result were different things. Valeth stopped at the base of the throne platform. She looked up at her dying father. "Emperor Kelthos," she said. Her voice carried through the silent hall. "I have returned." The emperor stared at his daughter. 7 years ago, he had sent her away in disgrace. He had called her defective. He had said she would serve as a gift to primitives. Now she stood before him, wearing the uniform of those primitives, having just destroyed the most powerful fleet he had ever assembled, Valeth. His voice was weak, barely more than a whisper. "How? How did we win?" Valeth asked. "Or how did I survive being thrown away by my own family?" He did not answer. "I will tell you both." Valeth released Lily's hand and stepped forward. "You sent me to Earth because you thought humans were worthless. You thought being sent to them was a punishment worse than death. But you were wrong about them. You were wrong about everything." She turned to address the entire court, not just her father. "Humans are not primitive. They are patient. They spent 50 years building a fleet in secret, letting the galaxy believe they were weak so no one would bother conquering them before they were ready. They are not stupid. They developed technology that makes Zerani weapons look like toys, and they are not weak." Her voice grew stronger. "They found me broken and alone and taught me that I was never broken at all. They showed me that my genetics were not defective, just different. They gave me a husband who loves me, a daughter who amazes me, and a home where my worth is not measured by my ability to produce heirs." She looked back at her father. "You threw me away because I could not continue your bloodline, and I found a people who valued me for being myself. That is the difference between the Zerani Empire and humanity. You see others as tools. They see others as people." Emperor Kelthos was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. "What do you want?" Valeth turned to face him fully. "I am not here for revenge. I could destroy this empire. The human fleet could reduce every Zerani world to ash. But that is not what humans do. That is not what I want." She lifted her hand toward her daughter. Lily walked forward and stood beside her mother. "This is Lily," Valeth said. "My daughter. Your granddaughter. She carries genetics that could change the future of our species. Not through force, or harvesting, or dissection. Through cooperation." The nobles murmured. "A hybrid child." Standing in the imperial throne room, it was unprecedented. "Humanity is offering you a choice," Valeth continued. "Continue as you have. Measure worth in bloodlines. Discard anyone who does not fit your narrow definitions. Treat the galaxy as something to be conquered, and watch as humanity rises to meet you. They have been hiding their strength for 50 years. They will not hide it forever. She paused, letting those words sink in, or change. Learn what I learned. Different does not mean broken. Kindness is not weakness. The greatest power in the universe is not found in warships or genetic purity. She put her arm around Lily. It is found in love. The throne room was completely silent. Every noble, every guard, every servant stared at the discarded princess, who had returned as something far more powerful than they could have imagined. Emperor Kelthus looked at his daughter. He looked at his granddaughter. He looked at the human officers standing behind them. And for the first time in his long life, he seemed to truly see. Slowly, painfully, he rose from his throne. The nobles gasped. An emperor never stood for anyone. But Kelthos descended the steps of his platform until he stood before Valeth. I was wrong, he said. The words seemed to cost him greatly. About you. About humans. About everything that matters. He knelt. The emperor of the Zerani Empire, ruler of 1,000 worlds, knelt before his discarded daughter. Teach us, he whispered. Teach us what the humans taught you. Valeth looked down at her father. She could have rejected him. She could have demanded punishment for what he had done to her. No one would have blamed her. Instead, she reached down and took his hand. We will, she said. Together. Lily stepped forward and took her grandfather's other hand. The old emperor looked at his hybrid granddaughter and tears fell from his eyes. She is beautiful, he whispered. She is. Valeth agreed. And she is proof that our future does not have to look like our past. The nobles began to kneel. One by one, they lowered themselves to the floor, not because they were commanded to, but because they finally understood something important. The discarded princess had. It's become something greater than any of them. Not because of her genetics or her title, because she had found people who showed her what love really meant. And love, it turned out, was the most powerful force in the galaxy. James stepped forward and stood beside his wife and daughter. The human delegation fanned out behind them. A new era was beginning, an era of cooperation instead of conquest, of compassion instead of cruelty. Valeth looked at her family, her human husband, her hybrid daughter, the planet that had become her home. Then she looked at the empire that had thrown her away. Let us begin, she said, and they did.